Chapter 91. Episode 14. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 3 Ordum carts were completed. They are simple structures with 4 wheels and handles on a large box. Of course, the front is carved with a face, just like Ordum. It's been a while since I've done a good job. I was about to lift the bomb bird with both arms and load it onto the Ordum cart when Gordon stopped me. Abel.San, I'd like to check something before we stack them up. When you catch a bomb bird, it comes with a little something extra. If you have that many birds, it must have something, please lend them to me. An added extra. I didn't know what it was, but I had no reason to say no. I silently handed the bomb bird to Gordon. Gordon takes the bomb bird and sits down on the ground with his hips and puts the bird on his lap. With his right hand, he spreads the bomb bird's beak and sticks his fingers in it. Then, with his other hand, he taps vigorously. What are you doing? This is a miss. I'm sure the one I missed is mixed in with the others, so at least one of them is. Oh, here it is. Just a little more, a little more. *T, damn it. *T. I got it. Gordon happily pulled out his right hand. In his hand, he held a drool-coated gold coin. In short, the extra was apparently a gold coin that had been used by other adventurers as bait and eaten away, sometimes remains in their mouth. Even if it was happily offered to me, I'm a bit reluctant to accept it. Well, I'll give you what comes out of their mouth. Originally, you guys were chasing after the bomb bird took the gold coins, right? As of now, Gordon is having his work cut out for him. However, it's also useful as insurance against Gaston, although it's partly because he's the one who poked and prodded me and gave me a lot of trouble. I'm thankful that he has muscles that I don't, and since he seemed to be seriously afraid of me, he's unlikely to betray me. Considering that it's likely to continue to be useful in the future, I'd better be prepared to pay the price. They're going to have to buy another bow for Morden, but I don't think they seem to have much money to spare. It's only a few gold coins or so, which is insignificant in terms of the number of bomb birds. Besides, I don't want to touch those sticky gold coins. Is that okay? Really? Abel.San. No, Brother Abel. An impressed Gordon approaches with his hands outstretched. Stop with the brother. Hey, get that hand away from me. At any rate, before enough time had passed, the gold spitting was finished and the bomb bird stacking process was over. I had Maya and the Gordon brothers push the Ordum cart and started walking towards the city of Lamern. Even though we were divided into 3 equal parts, there were still a lot of bomb birds. Compared to the Gordon brothers, whose muscles were for sale, it was a little tougher for Maya. Maya would occasionally stop to wipe the sweat off her feet and let out a breath of agony. Then she took a quick breath and gained momentum to move forward and make up for her delayed steps. NV. Are you okay? No, really, I'm perfectly fine. In fact, a little bit of a hassle is just fine for Maya. Maya, who said this while breathing slightly hard, looked like she was having a hard time with it normally. The position of the handle might have been a little high for Maya, too. Should I have changed it to fit for the person a little more? If there's a next time, I'll consider it. I thought about at least carrying my own luggage by myself, but I don't have that much time to spare either. The more delicate a piece of magic is, the more it wears down your spirit. And my legs are also bulging. Even I can only walk as hard as I can. No, really. On the way home, Gordon compares me to Maya and me, squinting and scratching his head in frustration. He was mumbling something, but when his eyes met mine, he quickly looked away and forced his expression back to a bland expression. What is it? Is there something on my face? Hey little girl. That one on your back, I'll carry it. Gordon suggests to Maya. I don't want to. This is what Maya was entrusted with by Abel. Maya speeds up her walk as if to escape and pulls Gordon away from her. I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't even have anything that important in there, and it would be better if he carries it for you, I called out to Maya's back as she moved away. Maya was wobbling from side to side due to the fact that she forced herself to increase her speed. Brother Abel too, you can at least carry the weight on her back. Gordon mouthed as he looked away as if it was hard to say. No. I wish I could but I'm too busy, and I'm doing my best just from walking or something. But honestly I think it's time for you to take a break, now you're joking. Gordon looked back at me and stopped his mouth from saying something. What? What's going on? When did you get so sweaty, Brother Abel? Even with this, I think I've gotten a lot better since I left the village. Sorry Maya, I think it's time to take a short break. Maya, hey. I call out to Maya, who is walking ahead of me. Maya looked back a little, she tried to stop the autumn cart. But the force pulled her back and she slumped down on the spot. Kaya. Maya's body fell with such force that the autumn cart almost fell into the path below the steps. Not good. I take out my wand and thrust it into the ground. A magic circle appears and the ground around me is engulfed in light. Oh earth, alteration, the dirt under Maya's feet sucked the soles of her shoes in, forcing her to get into position. Ah. Ha. Maya opened her closed eyes and tilted her head confused. The front wheels of the autumn cart, too, were protruding out of the road, but it had stopped moving in that state. It was a scene that as if time had stopped. Phew. Since it was on the spur of the moment, he took a wider range in favor of certainty, which altered Gordon's foothold as well. This caused Gordon to hit the knee of his right foot, which had been off the ground, into the suddenly stopped autumn cart. Oh, sorry. Gordon. No, just this. Ouch, I'd like to disarm the magic, but if I do, Maya's autumn cart will fall off the road. It's not that high on the bottom step, so it can be picked up normally, but if it's tipped over, the bomb bird will be damaged. Land, I wave my wand. The light from the tip of my wand reaches directly underneath the autumn cart that is about to fall. The terrain deforms and the soil rises. The ground appears underneath the front wheels of autumn cart. Alright, with this we're good now. Oh, thank you Abel. I'm saved. Maya seemed to finally relax when she saw that the autumn cart was safe, and her body, which had been tense to look at, relaxed easily. Hey, who are you really? Gordon stared at the newly emerging scaffolding, his face twitching. Chapter 92. Episode 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the way back to the city of Lamern, I explained the situation to the Gordon brothers and told them to give the bomb bird to Gaston. I'm also asking you to collect it too. Don't disappear with all that money. Don't worry, I won't take any chances with that kind of danger. The bullying and Gordon's body tremble. As for us, we can't mess with them if they escape. The Gordon brothers hand over the bomb bird to Gaston and Gaston redeems it at the Adventurer Support Center. The money will be given by Gaston to the Gordon brothers to bring it to us. 2 times. Honestly, I'd like to have the Gordon brothers pick it up, but I don't want to get tangled up with Gaston again. As long as there are no problems and the exchange goes smoothly, we'll continue with this style of communication in the future. Gaston has a lot of difficulties with his personality, but I'm sure he'd like to see continued results. He'll give me the exact amount of money to keep my contract with him. That, I'd like to think. However, it's quite possible that he'll change his mind when the money is in front of him, and there's no end to what he'll do if he has to be persuaded every time. The Gordon brothers would be able to threaten you better than I can. However, you should just go yourself, so why are you going around like this? No, I don't mean to interfere with you. Gordon corrects his own words. If you achieve anything, the nobles will come out, won't they? I don't want to get involved too much. And I've learned this time that it's not a problem as long as I'm making money. I'm planning to return to the Marin village and the engagement with Giselle is up in the air. If I were to go into the service of a nobleman, I could be in trouble at that time. The income may be stable, but if you can gather enough money by hunting magical beasts, there is no advantage in that. Besides, if you get involved in a power struggle just because you're perpetually skilled in magic, you might even lose your life. I don't know what level of sorcerer the nobles have, but I'm sure they are not half-baked. With a mere wave of their staff, they must be able to split oceans and create mountains. There was a fairy tale about something like that in the Marin village. Was it a myth? I see. But even so, we won't be bothered by the money. Gordon looked convinced and unconvinced. If I had a nobleman who could move around freely and leave whenever he wanted, and who was willing to help fund my research, I'd serve him, too. I don't think there's anyone that convenient. After I got to the city, I gave the bomb bird and the subjugation report to the Gordon brothers. I reminded them not to let too many people see the contents of the cart and the exchange, and we decided to part ways for now. By the way, this defeat report is also a Maya's creation. For confirmation's sake, I looked through the contents inside, but it's as eccentric style as ever. I didn't hear anything about the writing style last time, so it should be fine, but since Gaston had knocked the bomb bird off with his bare hands, I suggested that Gaston be allowed to use an arrow to be consistent. The bomb bird has a wound from an arrow, so it could be tricky to remove it here. When I looked back at it after I had it rewritten, I found that it had been changed to include Gaston hitting the bomb bird with his bare hands with an arrow. There's a little that I thought, but... well, I guess it's okay. Gaston could do that much. Leave aside whether or not the act was meaningful. After leaving the Gordon brothers, I returned to the inn and left my extra luggage with them before going to my room to rest. After a day of relaxing and resting my body, I dragged my legs screaming with muscle pain, and decided to head to the Adventurer Support Center to meet up with the Gordon brothers. The inside of the support center was jammed as usual. The Gordon brothers were nowhere to be seen. Maybe they haven't redeemed it yet. At any rate, I wanted to know if there was a rumor about one of the bomb birds, so I decided to stand on the edge and see what was going on. Suddenly, I saw a woman I'd seen somewhere before. She wasn't standing in line, but it seemed like she saw someone she knew and talking. The woman wore light, thin leather-made armor and had light brown hair. As I recall, she was a member of Mason's party. She and the man seemed to be talking to each other, but the other didn't seem to be a party member of Mason's. When I was looking at them as being strangely friendly, they left, arm in arm, somewhere. Hey, wasn't that girl one half of the idiot couple at Mason's place? I whisper and check with Maya. Maya was wondering she was that too, but isn't it? It's just a little bit similar. Maya makes binoculars with her hand and looks at the brown-haired woman's back. Because, look, that's the girl who was going out with the guy from Mason's party, right? See, Abel saw it too, didn't you? I was just confessing right in front of you. I know that. Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'd like to think it's a fancy copy of someone else's, too. The armor design is exactly the same, but I'm sure it's a common substitute. It must be. A party of 3, where the other 2 started dating and then immediately collapsed afterward, my zen could collapse from heartache. It's almost certainly going to be a case of dissolution. Kya. Though, those 2, they're kissing each other, kiss. This is such a crowded place in the morning. I'd like to think it's really just someone else's resemblance. But there isn't much to say about the bomb birds. It shouldn't be that often that many are hunted at once. Adventurers value information, so it wouldn't be surprising if yesterday's events were already rumored. There seems to be something strange about that forest lately. I heard that following the head-eating black fiend, a strange magical beast was discovered. I suggest you avoid that place for a while. There's something, maybe. The guy I went hunting yesterday was making a lot of noise about seeing some weird stuff. A pair of adventurers were discussing the forest with a mysterious look on their faces. As I thought, it seems that strange things have been happening in that forest these days. If I go there next time, I might as well measure and investigate the magic field. I have a feeling that the Lord's investigation team is going to move again first. What's a strange thing? Acting so important. Listen, don't freak out. It's a big, stupid, giant hand made of dirt. A hand of dirt. Oh, come on, you're lying. Treating me like an idiot. How big is it? I heard it was more than twice as tall as any other tree. There's a possibility that it's a magical beast that was sealed a long time ago, so the staff told them not to talk too much. If he's serious, there will be a big commotion sooner or later. It sounds weird. Maybe I should leave town and make my home base somewhere else. I have an idea. That's the guy I used to totally freak Gordon out. So that is a type that shouldn't have been left there. I should have broken it down when I was done. I shouldn't have been happy about how well I did it. He's been spreading false rumors, and now he's trying to throw a bunch of innocent people out of town. Should I make some kind of excuse? No, you'll know it's just a lump of dirt. It's going to be okay. In the end, what happened to the bomb bird? As I was thinking about it, a big jute bag was brought in by a group of 3 people in their shoulder in the support center. They're Gaston and Gordon brother. All 3 of them are holding a large, bulging jute bag in their hands. Hey, move. Gaston shouts in a somewhat bouncy voice and walks staggered, holding up the bag as if to show off to those around him. The Gordon brothers, with their slightly twitchy faces, hurriedly follow him. It seems that they were about to exchange their money. It seems that those 2 were chosen to be the baggage handlers. Chapter 93. Episode 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gaston waded through the procession and pushed forward. If it was impossible to get through, he would reasonably pull back. Everyone didn't want to be spotted by Gaston, but they were quietly opening the way. Gaston placed his elbow to the receptionist with satisfaction and smiled wide open. Hey woman, let's get on with the assessment. That is my credit for what I've done here. He thrusts the bag that clothed the bomb bird forward. The Gordon brothers lagged behind Gaston and put the bomb bird on the counter. Hey, open up. Gaston ordered, and the Gordon brothers untied the bag that they had tied up. No way, all of this, yes. The bomb bird. I'm the one who got them all. It's all my credit. To the receptionist, rather than to the receptionist, Gaston replied, as if to let the entire facility hear. That many bomb birds all by himself. I mean, there's no way he could. One of the adventurers who had been watching the situation spilled out a small word. What? If you have a problem with that, you might as well say it out loud. Whoever said that was a joke just now, come out. Gaston turns red in the face and frightens him. The man tries to turn himself around and run away, but Gaston grabs him by the collar and captures him. Say it again. No. You're wrong. I'm not trying to be difficult. But it's impossible. No matter how you think about it, it's impossible. And now, moreover, it's not even in the mating season of the bomb bird. What the hell kind of stupid thing are you talking about? I'm just moving faster than a bomb bird. You got a problem with that? Ha. Faster than a bomb bird. The man recites what Gaston said. And if I can't do it, how do you explain this pile of bomb birds? On. Well, I've been blending in with the adventurers as an onlooker, wondering how they can say that. I hate those people who can't do anything themselves but criticize others for doing what they want. Next time you say something like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't we do the exact same thing before, Gaston? Do I need to be that impudent to make it in this town? I feel like going back to Marin Tribe's village now. Ha. Guess there's no next time. Gaston drops the man off and walks back to the reception desk. Hey! Do you really think he got them? But it's true that there is. And that's all I can say, isn't Gaston actually absurdly strong? Whisperingly, the people around began to gossip in hushed tones. Perhaps because of Gaston's bullish attitude, the atmosphere around me was changing. As expected of Gaston, if it had been me, this wouldn't have happened. I feel bad for the person who was threatened, but I'll thank them now for their impudence. Well, so, the report, here it is. Here. Gaston handed him a mangled piece of paper from his pocket. It was a report written by Maya. It's as far as I can read. Maya worked so hard writing it. I glanced at Maya and saw a bit of tear in her eyes. The receptionist carefully unfolded the report and frowned. What? Do you have a problem with that? Well. The fact that he swung this tree around in the air is, hearing that, Gaston's expression froze for a moment, too. I couldn't help but cover my face with my hands. I was also tired, so I was relieved when he added the description of the arrows, and I guess I missed it. Gaston, as expected, seemed to be at a loss for words, but he quickly tightened his expression. I pulled it out and swung it around. What are you complaining about? He pushed through. He hesitated for a second, but he pushed through. I mean, it's impossible. If you can, try it. I thought it was a bad idea, but maybe the threat he had just made worked, or maybe everyone had become numb to the bomb bird, but no one complained about it. Enough about that. Just get on with the assessment. Wait a minute. For now, a quick look. Lightly, I'd say it's more than 500,000 Gs. I heard the amount and my heart gets posed. At this rate, I'll be able to pay off my debt to Maya in no time. Gaston's eyes change color for a moment, but he meets Gordon's gaze and clicks his tongue. I don't give a damn about the money. What will happen to my rank? Gaston leans forward, banging on the receptionist's counter. I'm sorry, sir, but that one is under an impartial decision of the higher-ups. He remembered that he had to hand over the money and he lost interest. At that state, he will probably give the money without a problem, but I think he's going to run out of patience soon. Will it be okay? Awesome, Gaston.san. When did you take down so many preys? That's so distant of you, leaving us behind. Buy me a drink or something. Yes, that's right. Gaston's usual cronies move closer to Gaston. Gaston narrows his eyes in annoyance. Oh. Hey, you guys, this money. Gaston almost slips up and gets a glare from Gordon. He closes his mouth quickly. TCH, one of these days. Yay. As expected of brother Gaston. It's 500,000 Gs, 500,000 Gs. Let's rent out the entire place tonight. His cronies are screaming and making a lot of noise. Hey. I said one of these days, Gaston yells to his cronies with a slightly twitching face. I knew brother Gaston would do it one day. I'll go make a reservation. Gaston's cronies rush out of the facility in a hurry. Gaston looked off the backs of his cronies with a straight face, then seemed to spot me and quickly shifted his gaze from me. The face looking at me was also a straight face. No, you definitely gotta give back that money. Chapter 94. Episode 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Well then, here's your reward money. Gaston accepts the bag full of coins from the receptionist. The sound of Gaston gulping and swallowing spit can be heard even at my location. Gaston puts his hand inside the bag and plucks a single gold coin. Gordon glares at him and he put it back in the bag, clicking his tongue. Gaston stared back at the suspicious onlookers as he walked out of the facility with a large stride. Morden, walking beside Gaston, was giving me a look. I guess I'd better follow them, too. As I was thinking about following Gaston after he left the facility, I noticed that the number of people who looked like Gaston's cronies was starting to increase. 1, 2, 3. From the onlookers group, one woman rushes out being late. In no time at all, there were 7 of them. As expected of Gaston, that's great. My brother Gaston is a great guy. Of course. That's our Gaston.san after all. He has a mouthful of possessions and is in Gaston's good mood. Maybe he's surprisingly normal and well-liked. In fact, Gaston's arrogance is powerful when you have him on your side. They would be relieved to have Gaston standing on top of them, too. So, Gaston.san. Anyway, I've been talking to the old man at the drunkard's pavilion, and he's asked us to make some noise in the afternoon anyway. The old man was happy to hear that Gaston.san was active, too. Gaston's complexion changes quickly. Gordon can't see what's going on and steps in between Gaston and his cronies. Hey guys. You didn't even get his permission, what? Look who it is, it's the idiot brothers, Gordon. Don't get carried away, you're just a load carrier. Listen, brother Gaston is not as petite as you are. He's not gonna be a cheapskate. Right, brother Gaston? Let's make some noise, shall we? We're going to make some noise, aren't we? All of the cronies' eyes are on Gaston at once. Oh. Of course. Come on, let's go, boys. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, you got that, Gordon. Oh, that's a bad one. Gaston was also troubled for a moment, but it was really only a moment. He wanted to maintain his dignity in front of his cronies, I guess. He agreed so easily. I'm not sure I can take advantage of Gaston after all. Wait. Hey. Wait, you. We need to talk, Gordon shouted and grabbed Gaston's shoulder as he was leaving with his cronies. Shut up. Don't tell me what to do. Gaston shakes it off, grabs Gordon's staggered back and pulls him down to the floor. Wait, you. Gordon rises to his feet with Morden on his shoulder and looks back at me. His face was pale and he told me with his eyes, mouth movements and hand gestures, I'll take care of it. He had a thoughtful look on his face as if he was feeling responsible or remembering the time he fought me. Gordon and Morden ran hurriedly and followed Gaston. He had the look of a demon. It's okay to leave it to him. Isn't it? I can't see anything but the future of being used like that. Isn't that bad? What do you want to do? What to do, you say? Frankly, there's nothing I can do to get in on it. Nominally, that money is something Gaston grabbed on his own. I can beat up Gaston later, but the money will be sneaking away by then. And I don't have the guts to go into a bar and ruin a party. They're really a bunch of guys who look like hoodlums, and frankly, they're scary. I'm sure they'll be fine. Look, Gordon looked at me saying that to let him handle it. Is it really okay? Maya is really worried about this. I'm sure Gordon is used to all this hassle. Conquer the poison with poison. The quickest way to deal with a rough guy is to get a rough guy, supposedly. Let's go with the right person at the right time. It's a good thing I brought Gordon on board after all, yeah. Anyway, if we manage to retrieve the money, I think we will be able to have more time with considerable livelihood funds. That's why I'd like to buy some things in town or something. Abel, aren't you escaping reality for a minute? If we fail to retrieve that, we'll lose an inn to sleep. In the end, we decided to move in case we had to move, so we decided to do the shopping another time. We decided to visit the Kyuter church in the center of the city and spend some time in the library located inside it. There are no restrictions on the use of the Kyudurian church library and it is open to the public. There's nothing I can do to chase after Gaston and the others right now. For now, I'll do some research today and get a good night's rest at the inn. I'm sure Gordon will be collecting the bomb bird reward money tomorrow. Kyoto religion is the state religion of the kingdom of Dinrat, and except for a few extremists, no one looks at the followers of other religions in a discriminatory manner. But there are a lot of myths that are rather silly, and there are many stories that appease the god who is angry and wants to eat the sinners with all his might. I thought it was mainly books such as the Bible and hymns because of the church library, but there was a wide range of books from magical instruction manuals to adventure books, and even romance novels in the end. In fact, the Bible and academic books were pushed to the corner, and those that smacked of novels for the masses were placed at the front. Maybe that's why the number of visitors was not so great, but is this really what this church is all about? I saw a woman in a monastic dress in the museum, but she was lying on a desk in a deep sleep. She was drooling over a thick book that was tucked under her cheek. It was the Bible of the Kyoto Church. Are you okay with this, Kyoto Church? I've heard that the gods here are short-tempered and shady. At any rate, I had Maya carry every single book on alchemy and bio magic that I wanted to look into my desk. There are a little over 30 books in total. This field is so deep that it's hard to see the bottom of it even if you look into it, which is a problem. Considering the time and effort required to carry them, I thought about standing up to read them, but they were too thick and my arms would be defeated. Sorry, Maya, for making you carry it. No. If it's just this, as expected, it was tough going back and forth, and Maya was out of breath. Well. Are you sure you're going to be able to read this by the end of the day? Maya was slightly taken back when she saw the pile of books on the desk. The stares from the other users in the library were also painful. Was my manner a little bad? The basic rule with these books is to lightly read the content covered by them. As expected, I can't read the whole thing. I see. Maya doesn't really know anymore. Chapter 95. Episode 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I opened up my alchemy book and moved my quill with my opposite hand to take notes. Lending the book is highly restrictive and requires a special application, but with the exception of a few books, there are no particular restrictions on transcribing. I was spelling out the parts one was curious about and what came to mind in key places. The majority of magic books are written in a special character called the array character, and this book was the same. Just because there were parts that were different from the array characters I knew, it was a little hard to read through. The array characters often vary slightly depending on the region and the age of the people and their habits. In addition, usually, the better sorcerers tend to write whatever they want, so the more helpful they seem to be, the harder it is to get through. What is this thing you're looking up? Maya calls out to me. Maya rests her chin on the desk, squinting at the book I'm reading. I'm concentrating now, so later, I start to say something and swallow the words. Come to think of it, the last time my juniors left angrily in my past life was when I was reading an alchemy magic book while ignoring them talking to me for a long time. I won't make the same mistake. It was Maya who carried the book for me in the first place. You know, the fragments from the ruins of Zesham. I was wondering if you could use them for something. I had also extensively researched ores that had similar properties to the ores used in those ruins. As expected of an elven technology, I couldn't find an ore with exactly the same properties or a method for making it, but I'm beginning to think of various uses for it. I was wondering if it was possible to make an ortum by grinding the stone. The only problem was the processing technology. The Marins are skilled at handling wood, but when it comes to stone, it's not so easy. I'd like to hand a bunch of blueprints to someone who's experienced with them and leave it to them. Ah, you took that one. What can you make with it? It seems to be good at sending magic farther, so maybe a wand or a magic cannon. I see. It sounds kind of authentic, however, I'm not interested in weapons, though. I'd like to make a flying ortum or a floating chair or something. The rest of the time, it could be a magical wave tower for the Magi.phone magic cell phone. I can see a way to make this one practical. It's a bit difficult for the fund, though. Floating chair, sounds easy, right? I'd like to be able to travel long distances and eventually add a massage function. It looks like Ebelhade is going to come out as a monster, he's not dead yet. I'd like to go visit him sooner or later. But... it sounds like it's going to be very difficult. I'm reading a book written by a famous alchemist named Altamir who died 80 years ago. I can't help but notice that his array characters are quirky and difficult to read. What he wrote was informative, but I think she was trying to fool the reader into thinking, how about this, can you understand this one? She must have been an old woman with a very bad character. No, I understand that you have to write it this way to convey the nuance of the content. I understand, but I can't imagine that she was thinking about having people read it after all. It seems to me that his pupil may have just transcribed his notes at random. By the way, the old woman in Altamir caused a crazy incident at the end of the story, and the king, who was afraid of her, set 50 sorcerers against her and sealed her in the tower. She was probably a bad type of genius. This book also contains some outrageous things, but is it okay to be so lax in storing it? If I were a librarian, I would either burn it or designate it as a forbidden book. You can even think that because no one could read it, they put it in a prominent place as a foil for the church. Since Maya is also here, why don't you find a book that's interesting to you? It's a specialized book for sorcerers, so you wouldn't know anything about it from the side. It's fun for Maya to just kind of look at it like this next to Abel, you know. I can't decipher the code if you're talking to me too much from the side. But that doesn't mean I want to chase her away. Look, maybe they have some archery instruction manuals. I'm gonna go look for it. Maya got up from her seat and walked over to where the bookshelves were lined up. Was that method of excuse a bit mean-spirited? No, it could be taken as if I'm treating her like she's in the way if I don't proceed with the deciphering, so it's definitely better than that, right? As I was reading for a while, I heard footsteps walking toward me. Is it Maya? It could have been someone simply trying to use this desk. The footsteps stopped behind me, and I was sure it was Maya. Did you find something interesting? As he said this, he turned around and saw an old man in monastic clothes. His back was not bent and he was squat for his age. No, who's that? Oh. Hi, what can I do for you? Ho ho, no, I think you're so young but very studious, you know. How's the research going? What is this old man? Is he just wandering around the church library looking for someone to talk to? I'm trying to concentrate on something right now, though. Hey, isn't that Sage Rudio-sama? I didn't know he's coming to this library. He has quite a promising future for him to catch Master Rudio-sama's eye, that little boy. The surroundings begin to be noisy. Is this person really that amazing? A sage is an honorific term for someone who can form their own magic circle. Don't do it. I'm only a monk. Huffing and puffing, the old man named Rudio turns his palms to the people behind him. I'm not sure if your words were a bit sarcastic, right? I think it's okay since the people that's been said doesn't seem to be angry, though. Oh, that's nostalgic. When I was young, I used to pile up books at random, too. I thought that reading many would make me smarter. Is that so? But in the end, that's not very efficient. Especially when you are young, you should carefully read the book you have chosen to read to get the basics. As I said before, you won't be able to get into your head if you read a book so quickly. No, I've been working on it for a while. Gentlemen, listen to what your predecessors have to say. You young people don't listen to your predecessors. You just naturally put it on my words, you old man. You should learn to listen to people. You can't keep falling down in a hurry. Well, that's also life. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have those days. But I was such a small boy at the time. Rudio quickly holds his hands on the ground and looks at me with a scowl on his face. What is this guy? What really is he? What is he doing here? What are you looking for? I'll give you some advice. Show me. Oh, you're giving me advice. That's nice of you. Sorry for wondering what this guy is or something like that. I was just reading it, skipping over a word I couldn't decipher. I was having trouble understanding what he meant, despite the fact that he kept appearing over and over again, and he was dragging me down. Then I'm sorry, Sage Rudio. Ho ho. Hey, just Rudio is okay. I'm just Rudio. I'm just an old man who's only been old and has been in contact with magic for a little longer than most people. Here, ask this old man anything you want to know. Anything. I wonder. This kind of implied arrogance. Is it because of the way he says it? Is it because of the expression? Rudio. San. It's this word here. But I'm not really sure what it means. Which one? Rudio arches his back and sticks his head out, bringing him closer to the book. Rudio's expression froze as if he was frozen. Here, see, in this sentence, you're using it to calculate the amount of magic power per unit of time consumed by the magic circle, right? So I thought it was some proprietary coefficient that Altamir had come up with, but it's on this page. And also on this page. It's a completely different usage. I thought there might be a fundamental misunderstanding, but this one and this one use different terminology, so it's probably correct. But look, the magic circle in this one is used to increase the efficiency of magic. Rudio's complexion was deteriorating rapidly. Rudio.san oh. Oh. Oh, 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 Rudio repeated the short words in his mouth, sweat sloshing down his face. Hey, are you okay? You should drink some water. What are you talking about again? What? No, that's why this part of the, Really, it's this late now already. Rudio's eyes widened and he cried out, smashing the desk with a vigor that didn't seem like his old body. The book on the desk bounced lightly. A man who was reading at the same desk threw the book and stood up to see what was going on. This person must be stronger than me. I'm sorry, young sorcerer. I'm a very busy man. I'm really sorry. When he said that, he ran away with a panicking. He almost fell down trying to avoid bumping into someone on the way, but quickly regained his position and resumed running. The library fell silent. The silence remained for a while. But as soon as someone began to speak, everyone began to speak within the bounds of good manners. I was stuck for a while, but then I saw the man who had stood up earlier sit back down and picked up a brush pen. Chapter 96. The Back Alley's Duel, Side. Gaston, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. The Back Alley's Duel, Side. Gaston was run after by the Gordon brothers. That facial expression, there was an irritation on his face that he had no intention of hiding. He had been taken out of the tavern by the Gordon brothers during the party. Of course, he would be in a bad mood. The Gordon brothers were headed down a narrow back street between tall buildings in the opposite direction from the tavern. Raw garbage was strewn around and there were puddles of blood on the side of the street. This street was unsafe and full of robbers. It is a patrol route for the guards, but their patrol time does not vary much. That's why there was a guideline list of guards' patrol times circulating among some of the bad guys. Of course, Gaston also knew the time. Ha, you guys are persistent. You're making the drink go bad. Tell me what you want already. I think we're good to go around here. Gaston confronts him. He's been watered down repeatedly from the side when he was feeling good and drinking. It wouldn't feel very good. Of course, Gaston knows why. It's all too obvious. The fact that he knows is why he is even more in a bad mood. Hey! How are you going to pay for their booze? Do you even know your place? That's not your money. Gordon sticks a finger at me. Gaston, you're not the type to save up, are you? If you can't pay your bills, go get down on your knees right now and call it off, you squirming bastard. The rewards are publicized, and if you leave out any of them, they'll find out immediately. Gordon has a good argument. It's a bomb-bird rampage after the Black Fiend. It's clear that the white, gloomy Abel is the backbone of a monstrous monster. You never know what will happen if you break your promise. But Gaston couldn't turn back either. He wouldn't want to die trying to make his cronies bow and recant. It's too miserable. Gaston had already made a mess of things. Besides, it would be suspicious to force a cancellation now. That would be inconvenient for the man hiding on the other side of Abel. Yes, so this is a necessary expense. A commission, you could call it fair compensation. If you think it's a bad idea, this Gordon brother or Abel can bury it. Why should I bury it in shame? Gaston reiterated. In Gaston's own mind, it was absolute logic. The one who doesn't understand is you guys. You guys can bury the money. No need for me to restrain myself. How could you not understand that? I'm the one who went out of my way to help him in the first place. Wah, ha. Idiot, how much do you think it costs for that many people to drink? It's mostly your fault you got swept away. I wouldn't give you this kind of money either. What, are you drunk? He stinks of trouble. Gaston clicks his tongue and then bends his head to check his surroundings. There's no sign of anyone. The corner of Gaston's mouth twisted up into a grin. Gaston had always been uncomfortable with the idea of an equal discussion. He got through it by either giving one-sided orders or shouting at them. And there was one action he would take with someone who couldn't get through with it. Pushing with violence. That was the quickest way to do it, and it suited his nature. Gaston draws his sword. Gaston's sword has a larger blade area than the average one. It weighs nearly twice as much. About 5 years ago, he had threatened the most famous blacksmith in the city of Lamern and had him make it at a discount, ignoring his reservations in favor of it. When slashed, its overwhelming weight would sever the bones of a magic beast with its overwhelming weight, and when struck in the stomach, it would crush the bones. It is a deadly blade that can kill with a single blow. The first thing people are afraid of when they see the rugged blade, and the second thing they are afraid of is Gaston wielding it lightly. The great sword Veriblow, which can break the hearts of others just by holding it up, was a perfect match for Gaston's personality. Regardless of how he obtained it, Gaston liked the great sword Veriblow. If it was slightly damaged, he would service it, and in some cases, he would take it to the blacksmith immediately. He made sure to wipe the blade and hilt with a cloth before he went to bed. He even made up his mind that he would never let his cronies and women touch it, no matter how they praised him. He was even thinking about paying that blacksmith a fair price for him, which was unusual for Gaston. Just a thought, though. Gaston grasped the great sword Veriblow with both hands and slashed through the air twice. After that, he gently thrust it into the ground while controlling his momentum. It made a loud sound and scattered sand splatters. What? Are you really going to tell me what to do? Ah. I don't mean to brag, but I've got a short temper, don't you think? Gordon signaled to Morden with his eyes and then held the axe in his hand. They say you have to see the pain to be an idiot. That's the quickest way to train an animal. At best, I hope you're smarter than a dog. Gaston's eyebrows lifted in response to Gordon's challenge. His hand naturally tightened in his grip on the weapon. I'm going to make you pay for insulting me. I was going to make a reasonable threat, but don't. I'm going to give you a bone-deep taste of the horror of this Veriblow. Gaston shouts, switching the great sword Veriblow from two-handed to one-handed. It's not a stance that can be maintained for long due to the weight of the great sword Veriblow, but the one-handed stance allows for a wider range of movement. Plus, it's easier to make your opponent feel intimidated. If you are even slightly frightened, it will be a big advantage. TCH. I should have brought him here when he's a little drunk. Morden, run the other way. The two of us will crush him. All right, big brother. Great. I'll put you two together and make you rust a Veriblow. Gaston swings his great sword Veribrow and slams it against the wall. The stone wall is easily dented and chipped away as easily as if it were paper. Gordon gulps at the sight of the destroyed wall. Gaston's mouth smiles twistedly. Chapter 97. Episode 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the conclusion, I closed the book on Altamir. I understood 90% of the content. Even if I understood the steps, there were parts where I had no idea of the principles or what they were indicating, but I'll stop there for now. Next time I come back, I'll check if there are any books of other people who might have something to do with Altamir. I've transcribed some of them, but it's still hard not to take them out. I heard that if you're an advanced adventurer, the restrictions on your activities at the facility may be loosened in some cases, so if Gaston becomes a Class A or B, I may be able to ask him to borrow it instead. And even if there are no books left, there might be someone who has met Altamir if he's a long-lived race. I'm a little curious about this old woman now, and I'd like to meet someone close to her if possible. However, even after 80 years, the only people who are still healthy are the ones who are doping around with magic or the elves who came down to Earth. The rest are either intelligent dragons or advanced demons. I stand up from my seat and then stand tall. Well, let's get Maya to clean up. I wipe the tears that have spilled from my absent mind and turn to the direction of the bookshelf. Maya went to look for a book on archery once and never came back. As I was wondering if she was stand reading or something, Maya jumped out from behind the bookshelf. Abel. Look at this. Maya runs up in a straight line and then slams a book down on the desk. It looks like it's still new. There is preservation magic in this world, and many books written by sorcerers and items of high historical value are slowed down by it to slow down the deterioration of the paper. However, this book does not seem to have that. It is probably intended for the mass market. Nevertheless, the paper is pure white. And there are no scratches on the back cover. What's the matter with you? But this. Look at this. Relax. What's in that book? I turned the book over and saw a familiar name on it. The Wagoner Expedition. The People of Yalba and the Dragon Dance. He's the thin-haired scholar from the Lord's research team. Did he publish a book or something? I heard that guy fought the dragon for 3 days and 3 nights and finally drove it back. Isn't that awesome? Honestly, Maya looked down on her wondering why she was so high and mighty. I see, I think that's something that's going to be heaped on me by 500%. I'm not worried that Maya is going to get scammed one day. She might fall into some weird religion and buy a vase or something. And marriage fraud. I've seen the name before, and I was looking at it, and a woman in the neighborhood recommended it to me. Abel should definitely read the book, too. It's that popular. However, he's bald. I hear they're making a new one, too. Apparently he wanted to spell out a record at a site he had recently explored. That wouldn't be the Zesham ruins, right? Ebelhade will go crazy if he's telling in a weird way. I see. I'm going to read the new one when it comes out. I'll get some for Ebelhade, too. After having Maya put all the books away, we left the church library and moved to the main building, which was connected via a hallway. We couldn't get in or out without going through here. Probably, they wanted to attract the attention of the general population, who are of other faiths, as much as possible. There are a lot of people who run off hurriedly as if they will be punished. I wonder what is that tasteless picture. Maya's eyes narrowed wide as she entered the main building. She pointed to a large painting hanging on the wall. A wart-covered, pale mass of flesh with countless tentacles. What looked like wings and arms grew irregularly from it. What looked like eyeballs buried in the flesh seemed to be restless to move at any moment. Above, what looked like the upper half of a hunchbacked human body grew as if it was one with the mass of flesh. The one eye peeking through the gap between the hair-like tentacles has an eerie gleam in it. It is positioned on the library side of the corridor, where it can be seen when coming from the corridor. It's a monster, to put it simply, but it's not good for many things to point it out here. Hey, put your arm down. It's the god of Kyuter, the god Kyuter-sama, you know. That one. Did it had an appearance like that? Maya knows the name too, but I never heard of that thing being attached to the bottom. Keep your voice down, people are watching. Garuja, the god of the soil, who created the earth and gave shape to the world. Levi, the water god who created the oceans and gave life to the world. Mahalvo, the god of fire, who made fire and gave the world civilization. Silphame, the god of the sky, who created moon and gave the world his magic. And it is said in Kudrism that it was Kyuter that swallowed them all and created man. Never say that he is an evil god. Without him, human beings wouldn't have been born, which is the myth of Kudrism. By the way, Levi and Garuja are mentioned in the myths of other religions as well, but they are not treated so badly. In the past, there were times when the mythology was so overwhelming that it led to religious wars, and there are records in the chief's mansion that the Marin tribe was driven into such wars. Nowadays, the most widespread religion on this continent is Kyuter religion. But on other continents, it's best not to talk about it underhandedly. I was just about to pull a stunned Maya's hand to get out when a man stood in front of me. He was still a young man in a monastic uniform. He had tightly coiffed hair and a smile that looked like it had been hardened with paint. On his chest hung a necklace with tentacles extending out of a circular one to form a shape. It was the symbol of the Kyuter cult. You guys over there, are you other Christians on your way home from the library? In fact, we have a worship service tomorrow, and we often have people from outside the church attend. However, we're only asking for those who have asked us to come, though. We'll be serving a simple meal and drinks after the service, and we'll have a reunion, so please join us. I'm sorry, we have things to do tomorrow. Well then, I'm meeting someone now, too. Sorry, if we get another chance, I'll see you then. The timing was a bit awkward, so I did my best to refuse. I returned the friar's affectionate smile to the friar, who seemed disappointed but didn't crack a smile, and dragged Maya away from him. After that, we headed straight for the inn. The sun has already setting and it was just beginning to get dark beyond dusk. The moon was beginning to rise in the sky. In front of the inn, there were two men who looked like a bad character. One was leaning against the wall and the other was sitting like a delinquent. It was dark, so I couldn't see their faces very well. I quickened my steps, trying not to get involved. Then the man who was sitting stands up, raises his arms, and runs over to me. As soon as I got my wand up, the man fell down amazingly. I looked closer and saw that it was Gordon. Brother Abel, don't do that to me. Really, for God's sake. Gordon bends to the ground and swings one hand in my direction. He was traumatized, apparently. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to reflexively, I put my wand away. Gordon stood up so quickly and brushed the dust off his pants. Apparently, the Gordon brothers were waiting for me to return. So, how did it go with Gaston? Oh, sorry. I was waiting for the right moment to stop, because I thought it would draw more attention to me if I stopped, but it got so fast that I didn't get there in time. I knew it was going to happen, it can't be helped. I guess I was wrong to use Gaston, as expected. I thought I could make it since he jumped in the ranks, but I guess I was being shallow. Then, the reward money is, yeah, don't worry about that part. We got it all right. I had to get a little extra for the inconvenience. What? Gordon said with great pride and looked back at Morden. Hey, Morden. Give me that bag. At Gordon's suggestion, Mao Don took out a bag. I could see from the outside that it was filled with heaps of money. I thought you said it was used up. I didn't know you got it back. No, that's what got me in trouble. Anyway, Morden and I beat the crap out of him, but he's not the kind of guy who keeps money on hand. Did you beat him up? As expected, he moves fast. Well, it's the only way to win Gaston. I think it's best to keep the Gordon brothers in charge of Gaston. I'm sure they were pretty gangly, but you've solved it somehow. I don't see any particular damage to either Gordon or Morden. Morden doesn't have a bow, and it would have been a melee fight, but I don't think it was after a very bad fight. Yeah, that Gaston guy, he was just swinging his stupid big sword around with one hand after all. I just kept pretending to attack him by pinching him and then backing off, and he got knackered on his own. At the opportune moment, Morden jumped to his feet and pulled him down, and from then on, well, it just kind of stayed that way. I see, he was big, but he wasn't very smart, apparently. The image of the Gordon brothers punching and kicking the shrinking Gaston flashed through my mind. And well, they said they had no money, so we confiscated the sword and sold it. Then I filled in the holes they spent and returned it to you, minus a nuisance fee. He just said something outrageous. Did you sell the sword? Indeed, Gaston was carrying a very huge sword around to show it off. That one, did he sell that one? Yeah. I didn't want it to become public knowledge, so I sold it at a store in the back so it wouldn't be traced back to me, and I guess I rushed the appraisal, so I got a little overcharged. But it was still a good enough price. And they sold it off for cheap. Are these two demons? Isn't the sword part a bad idea? Maybe he had feelings for it or something. And that guy won't be able to make money on his own. I think it'll be fine. He'll be able to buy a few more weapons with the rest of the money he got, maybe. And he'll do a good job of hiding the fact that he bought a new weapon. He's not a doll, after all. As far as feelings go, it's the person who uses it up who's to blame. I guess so. Yeah, no, I mean, maybe but. Wait a minute. I took the bag from Morden and then returned that extra amount of money intact. I don't want to use it somehow because I feel that Gaston's grudge is caged in it. Besides, I want the Gordon brothers to keep an eye on Gaston in the future. It would be better to let them hold the price. Chapter 98. A certain forest's research team sighed. Alan, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98. A certain forest's research team sighed. Alan, 12 men were advancing through the dense forest. They were the private army of the Lord who held the city of Lamern, and they belonged to the second survey unit within it. How's the magic magnetic needle, Alan? Called out by the Captain Rahino, the squad member Alan looks down at the magic tool at hand. The magic magnetic hand is shaped like a clock with only one hand, and has the property of moving in response to strong magic power. It has an adjustment screw that allows you to narrow down the type of magic power that reacts, but Alan didn't quite understand how to use it. I don't really know how to use it, you know. It's been going around in circles for a while now. Hey, you didn't break it right. The reason we went to the forest this time was to investigate the recent spate of troubling incidents such as the emergence of dangerous mutant species and magic beast disaster monster panic that have been occurring here. In a postscript to a certain adventurer's report, he wrote. Lately there have been a series of strange incidents. When such troublesome incidents have been occurring frequently, there is a bad cause that can disrupt the magic field, so it is better to investigate it as soon as possible, was written in the report, and when the Lord so saw that, I've been ordered to send me and my unit. This kind of investigation is often prepared with special rewards and left to the adventurers. That's also the purpose of the support center for adventurers from the beginning. But many of them are rough and foul-mouthed, as well as have little sense of responsibility. For this reason, the survey team is mainly entrusted with important investigations that cannot be left to the adventurers. Especially this time, there are still many unclear points, and the idea of privately investigating them before making a big deal out of it and causing anxiety is a big deal. By the way, Rahino requested the cooperation of Wegener, who is a magic beast scholar, for this investigation, but that was not possible due to Wegener's mysterious abdominal pain after he finished listening to the story. It stopped. With a warning sound, the magic magnetic needle jumped up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to use it in a strange way, but it was kind of sudden. In response to Alan's impatient excuses, Rahino drew his sword and held it ready. A greasy sweat was flowing on his forehead. Captain Rahino. I mean, don't be so angry. It was an accident or something. After saying that much, Alan felt uncomfortable with the way Rahino was looking at him. This was because Rahino's eyes seemed to be staring behind Alan rather than looking at him. Alan grasped the situation and turned around as he discarded his magic magnetic needle and drew his sword. A short distance away, there was a blackened tree. The tree was a bit thicker, and its bark was partially peeled off and gouged out, making it look like the face of someone who was laughing with a big mouth. Just as it was, a branch was growing out of its nose. Alan felt creeped out and frowned. Immediately after that, the tree's mouth became even larger. With that, the entire forest began to make a violent noise, as if the tree was laughing. There's no doubt about it. This is the true nature of the distortion of the magic field and the reason why the magic magnetic needle flashed. Alan had a hunch that this was the case. Then he realized that his hand, which was holding the sword, was trembling. "Lower your swords," a croaky voice echoed in Alan's head. It was as if it was etched directly into his brain. The other members of the squad were also dismayed. Perhaps they all heard this voice, Alan guessed. Spiritual language. The use of spirit language meant that it was a magic beast with a danger level of B or higher, or a demon of some kind. This is not an enemy that can be dealt with by the second investigation squad. Praise me as the god, Alan doesn't know the spirit language in detail. Therefore, he doesn't know what the tree in front of them is trying to say to them. Or else I will grant you death, but it was clear that he was not a mild opponent. Lower your swords, the eyes of the tree widened. Alan tightened his grip on his sword. It was because he could clearly sense that it was turning against him, who was in the lead. A black pointed root poked its head through the ground. Quickly, Alan swung his sword. But the blade easily shattered and the tip of the root pierced Alan's shoulder. Alan was blown away and threw his sword out in the intense pain of being pierced. He flew through the air, spurting blood, and his slammed body into the ground. Alan rolled onto his back after hitting the side of his head on the ground. His heart palpitations were intense and painful. He couldn't breathe well. Heat rises from the bottom of his stomach. Alan tries to hold his shoulder injury with his hand. He feels a throbbing sensation and realizes for the first time how much blood he's losing. Instantly, the paralyzing fear and pain hit me all at once. Ah. Ha. Uwa. Alan screamed, half-crazed. Fear is contagious. Clang. Clang. One by one, the sound of swords being dropped on the spot continued. No one was in a position to fight properly anymore. We're retreating. Rahino shouted that to his companions and quickly took the fallen Alan on his back. He spun around and turned his back to the tree monster. The tree monster turns to their backs as they flee, and lifts a branch. The tip of the branch was split into 5 parts, like a thin hand. Chapter 99. Episode 20. The Thing Lurking Deep in the Forest, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Congratulations, Gaston.san. After a rigorous review, the previous merit and report was granted, and the promotion from semi.D. class to D. class was granted. All of us on the staff look forward to your continued success. The receptionist Guts posed and called out to Gaston. The receptionist is quite young, and she doesn't look much older than me. Besides, it's the first time I've seen her face before. I'm sure she's new and doesn't know Gaston's normal behavior. The receptionist is congratulating him honestly, but the staff member who is organizing the papers in the background is watching the exchange between the two of them suspiciously. Today's Gaston was more obedient than usual. Unusually, he stood in line and walked with no effort, his shoulders slumping discouragingly. Then he occasionally let out a sigh as if he's remembered something. He seemed to be very much affected by the sale of his sword. But after a rigorous review, the achievements and reports were recognized. Maybe that's the template, but as a person who is cheating, I'm horrified. As expected of Brother Gaston. We didn't think you were capable only just being a semi-D. class. The small man beside Gaston utters intelligible sycophancy. Yeah, I guess so. Gaston's tension in response is low. It's like a different person from Gaston, who was so attached to his rank before. Oh yeah, Brother Gaston, what happened to that huge sword? Oh, yeah. Well, just with bare hands is enough for a magic beast. Caw. As expected of Brother Gaston, I can't take it. That's right, of course, my brother's knuckles are harder than mere metal. What now? I'm seriously starting to feel sorry for him. I don't think I've done anything wrong to Gaston, but I feel so guilty about it. Veriblo. What's the matter with you, brother? It's nothing. It's nothing. Gaston glances sideways at me, then slowly shakes his head. Yeah, that's a serious injury. I hope he doesn't turn on us and resent us. But he doesn't look like she has the energy to do so. It's okay, Gaston. I'll raise your rank as promised, so stay strong. Abel. What's wrong? Maya, who was stroking the back of her new shooting wyvern, the bow I made last night, looks into my face. Oh, no, I figured I'd better work harder on it. Yes. And Maya would love to test the power of the reborn shooting wyvern. With this, I'll show how useful this will be to Abel. She puts his strength into his hand holding the bow and says so enthusiastically. Thanks to the Gordon brothers collecting the money from Gaston last night, I had quite a bit of money to spare. It seems that Maya was also eager to learn archery, so I bought some materials and made a bow, thinking that it would be better than an old raggedy bow. The bow itself has been made by the Maroney tribe before, so as long as I have the materials, I can make it to fit Maya's height. I bought as much good material as possible and stayed up all night yesterday to make it. By the way, because Maya didn't want to throw away her old shooting wyvern, which was her friend in arms, she took the strategy of first saying, the strings are ruined, so it's hard to aim at them, and then saying, the life of the wood seems to be short, so I'd better replace it, and replacing the body. It was what is commonly known as the Theseus ship paradox. I'd like to think that this has taken over the soul of the shooting wyvern. Are we going to the forest again next time? Yeah, I want to go to the woods. I'm still curious about the continuing anomalies. I want to look into that in earnest this time. In the meantime, I've included a brief discussion of the continuing anomalies in the forest as a PS to the last sentence of the report that Maya wrote. I thought that if I got the ears of the higher-ups at the Adventurer Support Center, they might respond in some way, but it's just an adventurer's report. I don't expect that much, and even I can't confidently assure you that there's something there. To begin with, looking at the current exchange between Gaston and the receptionist, it's doubtful that the report is even being read properly. I wouldn't be surprised if it was thrown out for dereliction of duty. I'd have preferred to find out for myself if I could, and that's fine. Later. I'd like to look for some nice trees that possess magic deep in the forest. A tree that possess magic. Yeah, because I haven't carved autumn at all compared to when I was in the village. It makes my fingertips feel jittery. An autumn could only make good things if I use trees with high magic power. All of the trees near the Marin tribe's village had a high magic power, but this was not the case with the trees around here. I touched it and saw how blessed that village was. I'm not expecting to find such a good tree just because I went a little deeper into the forest. It would be nice to have some here, was the goal for now. And even if I found it, I'd have to carry the tree back home or just carve the ortem and leave it alone. The reason why the world tree ortem is able to be called up at will through teleportation is because it itself is an extraordinary mass of magical power. I don't expect a tree with a world tree class magic power to grow in a forest like this in a magical manner. When I was talking to Maya about such things, something suddenly called out to me from behind. You'd better quit going to the forest. It was a familiar voice. When I turned around, I saw Maizen's face. It's been a while, Abel, Maya. Sorry to interrupt your conversation, but I wouldn't recommend the forest right now. As soon as I saw Maizen's face, a scene I saw in the guild just the other day flashed back into my mind. A member of Maizen's party was kissing another man in broad daylight, despite the fact that she had a boyfriend in the party. I lose track of the words I'm about to say and shut up. Oh, isn't it Maizen? Maya had an immediate reaction to the example as if she had determined that it was a blanket imitation of someone else. Why do you say we can't go to the forest? They say they found something dangerous in the forest. Rumor has it that's why the Lord's private army is heading to the forest today. Something dangerous. Oh, don't be surprised. It's a huge hand made of soil. The adventurers call it the Hand of God. I didn't believe it at first, but then I saw it. I was shaken up and we all ran away. That's the same one I used on Gordon. Maya seemed to have figured it out and quickly closed his mouth. I could tell from a distance that it was something sinister. I don't know much about that sort of thing, but how should I say this? I could sense a vicious destructive impulse in the air. I'm the one who made it. Was that really that sinister? By the way, was that really how the Lord's private army reacted? Why, it's just a little raised dirt. If they find out about this, won't they make us take responsibility for moving private soldiers around for no reason? I see. It's not that Maya doesn't think it has any evil or destructive impulses. You know. I heard that the support center is trying to keep the information secret, but I don't think they'll be able to hide it. It's too big. Anyway, you shouldn't go there. There's no way something like that would come naturally, so there must be some kind of monster out there. I think it's hard to take on that thing, even for Abel. The one that made that is me, though. Thank you for the advice. I see. I'm starting to get scared now, yeah. I thought about going in different ways with him now, but I still couldn't stop myself from asking about the party. Honestly, I can't help but be curious. You know. Your party, how is it going right now? The two people other than Maizen were dating, right? Has it been awkward lately? No, I'm just using an example, Tilda and Risha. Saying their names, Maizen's expression darkens. The mood has been a little bad lately. It's just that the situation is they get into an argument over little things, and I'm the go-between. I don't know what's going on, they were really close until recently. I'm trying to figure out what to do about it, too, but that's probably not going to help. It would be better to break up now, was the words come out just until my throat. Should I say it, or should I just keep quiet? I don't want to feel like I'm knocking over a stick that someone is trying so hard to support from the side. Is that so? I guess it's called malaise, isn't it? They seemed so lovey-dovey, but it's kind of sad, whenever we talk about love, Maya comes on board with a curious tone. But it's probably not that cute. I'm sure I'll be able to put my charisma to good use. Honestly, since then I've risen from semi-E class to E class. As a party, I want to improve its performance from here on out. Maizen huffed and ruffled his hair deliberately. I see. But if the mood of the party is so bad, I think it would be a good idea to recreate the party or something. No, I don't think it's something to be worried about that much, really, yeah. It'll pass soon, probably. Because you see, I'm here. Me. I'm confident to make the mood relaxed and... Yeah, Mai-zen, one day there will be a hole in your stomach, won't there? Chapter 100. Episode 20.1. The thing lurking deep in the forest. 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A quick, warm breeze blows. The wind passes on the intervals of every tree, brushing the leaves. In the forest, there was a warm miasma drifting, which stickily clings together. I have feeling that it unnecessarily wastes stamina every time we walk. I'm not sure how much time has passed since I started walking through the forest now. The purpose of coming to the forest this time is to get to the bottom of the strange events that are going on in the forest. If it's a magic beast or a demon that has the influence it's supposed to have, it should be a pretty big one. An amount of money would come in that could substantially pay back the debt, and it would be enough to satisfy the disgruntled Gaston. However, I'm raising my arm while building up magic power at the end of my wand to detect the dubious magic power, but the arm I'm raising is starting to weak and shaking. I'm nearing my limit. Somehow, it's hard to breathe. I unintentionally let my arms down and stop my feet. The light from the tip of my wand, which was faintly emitting light, was cut off. Shall we take a break, Abel? It sounds kind of tough, though. Maya, who was walking beside me, calls out to me with concern. No. I'm probably fine. Probably. But your face looks kind of pale. Honestly, I didn't expect to walk this far. The sweat is great. Sensory perception requires delicate magical control. Long hours in this bad environment. Physical fatigue, uncomfortable air, and magical power sensing, these three things combined are coming to kill me. Somehow, it's starting to get really hard. Shall we use Ordum for sensing? I grab my wand and wave it. The ground glows and a magic circle appears. Carry, as the chant ended, the world tree Ordum appeared in the center of the magic circle. I wave my wand again. I draw the magic circle so that the Ordum of the world tree goes to the source of the type of magic power specified by the world tree. O doll, lead the way. A light lights up behind the Ordum's eyes in the world tree. Ordum moves onward, jumping up and down. I've set my speed to be quite slow for a break, so I won't lose sight of him at first. Well, even if we lose sight of them, as long as we can transfer them to our hands, that's all that matters. Alright, let's go after that. I wipe the sweat from my forehead and look up. That Ordum looks really is useful, yeah. It might be a little tough to get it to fight hand-to-hand combat because of the lack of weight, but it can do most of it. If it had the weight, you could make it fight in hand-to-hand combat with a magic beast. Nothing is impossible for an Ordum. The branches of the world tree would have been well worth the amount of money we put out. I believe that. If I give it the proper function and set up a magic circle, I can even make it carve an Ordum. If I do even better, it should be possible to make it carve an Ordum out an Ordum, and then have the completed Ordum carve out an Ordum. As long as we could find a forest with lots of good-looking trees, we'd be able to mass-produce them indefinitely. Even if it took it 30 minutes to carve the Ordum, after carving the first one, it would take him an hour to carve 4 of them, which meant 16 in 2 hours, and 256 in 4 hours. Theoretically, if the carving was left alone for 10 hours, the number would jump to about 1 million, and if it took a whole day, the number would rise to nearly 300 trillion. As expected, there's no place where that many trees grow, and I'm sure my magic power isn't enough either. I'd like to try it out once, but if I accidentally experiment with it, the world would probably be destroyed as it is. However, if there's a place where it doesn't bother them no matter how many Ordum I carve, I'd like to challenge myself to see how many of them I can carve in a day. Maya, water please. Wait a minute. Maya took my hyatl, a water bottle made from gourd-like fruit, out of my luggage and handed it to me. I turned my hyetl upside down and drank the water. I felt somewhat better. As I was wiping my mouth with my sleeve, Maya jumped in front of me with her bow at the ready. Abel, I heard Maya's voice, lowered my hand holding the hyetl, and looked ahead. 3 goblins, ugly little green-skinned devils, were blocking the way. Their faces were skinny, eagle-nosed, and slit. Their ears were pointed, almost elf-like. Gafu. 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 The goblins smile creepily and brandish their clubs. At that time, the color of the light in the eyes of the world tree's Ordam, who is guiding us on the road ahead of us, changes to red. He suddenly increases his speed and rushes towards the goblins that are ahead of him. This is the response action that I had arranged in advance. When it is about to be attacked with hostile intent during activation, it will automatically counterattack the magic beast with its magic circle. The world tree's Ordam plunges its body into the goblin's chest. Crackling, crackling. I heard the sound of the sternum shattering. Gapu. The goblin's flesh and blood dissipated as it let out a strange, decapitating scream. It went limp and looked as if it had been folded up and stopped moving. Gafu. The 2 goblins in the rear stopped on their feet and dropped their clubs on the spot as they saw the horrific end of the incisive captain. The world tree's Ordam shakes his body with a shudder and blood flies to the area. Red droplets of blood were splattered on the bodies of the goblins who were standing in a daze. After flying the blood that can be flown, the world tree's Ordam looks at the 2 goblins. Gaffa. The goblins run deep into the forest and are soon out of sight. I watched their backs and then called out to Maya, who was frozen in a bowed position. You were calling my name earlier, did something happen? No. It's nothing. No, it's nothing anymore. Maya lowered her bow hurriedly, looking a little embarrassed. World tree's Ordam stares at me, but as I began to walk, it turned forward and began guiding me forward, making another dong sound while jumping up and down. However, what a strange air. The more I walk, the heavier I feel the air getting. Maybe there really is something nasty out there. Oh, there's a man down. Maya pointed ahead and then started to run, passing the Ordam and moving on. Hey, it's not safe to go on your own. As he said it, he looked in the direction Maya had pointed. Through the trees, I see a familiar blue outfit. It's stained with blood and mud, but I'm sure of it. It was the clothes worn by the Lord survey team. I catch up with them and look at the other side of the tree. There were 10 familiar men. They were definitely the faces of the survey team I met at the Zesham ruins. I also remember the name of the blond man leaning against the tree. I'm pretty sure it was Alan. Alan's shoulder is bandaged, but his injuries seem to be quite deep, and the bandage is already stained by oozing blood. When I met him at the ruins, his eyes were lively and energetic, but there was no sign of it on him now. It's like he was frightened by something, cowering. The others were similar. They were traumatized in some way, more or less. You are. The sorcerer we met in the ruins. Alan turned to me and said weakly. Hi, it's been a while. How's it going? Actually, an adventurer reported something about a forest that suggested the existence of a monster, and we were about to embark on an expedition to investigate deeper in the forest. But we got swept up in the ensuing conflicts, and this is the result. Gay, so it's the thing I added to Gaston's report. I'm sorry about that. I'd like to get out of the forest as soon as possible. But there are some people, including myself, who are badly injured and can't walk well. In the meantime, we've sent those who were relatively lightly injured to run to town as a message and are waiting here. He says in frustration and looks around at the other investigators around me. Then he turns his attention back to me. You guys had better get out of here, too. Looking at the behavior of the monster, it seems that he had an agenda to keep us alive. But if not, he would have killed us all. It was like playing with a bug and letting it go. That wasn't something a human could handle. he said, and his body shuddered. Is there such a ridiculous monster? From what I've heard, it seems to have some intelligence to it. What did it look like? A tree. The tree moving. And smiling. Why, yes. He sent me words with his mind. It was spirit language, so I hardly knew what it meant, but, talking in spirit language. Tree-like creature. Isn't that, by any chance, the perfect material for autumn? I had half given up on this magical tree. I didn't expect the opportunity to get it in my hands so easily. My fingers, which had been itching to carve autumn, naturally began to move. My heart began to flutter. Seeing me, Alan drops his eyes and hugs his shoulder. It's horrible to hear, isn't it? I too, just remembering it makes me shiver. I guess so. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm shaking in my boots. Stop, I need to calm down. Well, which way is it? Which way is it that has the resources to do that? Am I right in that direction? What? No, I just want to make sure to avoid it. And it's nothing personal. I know. I think I heard a little bit wrong. It's way back there. I'm not sure how far away it was, as I was running for my life, but, okay, I see. So there's my new autumn over there. I could make a full-fledged combat-specific autumn. I'm going with 6 arms.